Hello students. So we have started talking about free vibration of two degree of freedom systems. Initially we derived the equation of motion, rather it was a set of equations of motion in which we have seen that the set that we get, there are two second order differential equations which are coupled in nature, and you also have derived such equations in our tutorial session, and we also have seen that how that set can be solved. Okay, so you have differential equations with you, so how you solve that, and that gives you displacements of two mass blocks. Okay, and we have seen that the kind of two degree of freedom systems that we are considering, they are all equivalent one. Okay, so in the yesterday's class you have seen that there was this taut string, right, in the previous tutorial session that you have solved this problem. Okay, and on that taut string two mass blocks were attached, and these two mass blocks were allowed to move in the vertical direction. If certain initial condition is given, then how exactly these two mass blocks will perform their motion, you have derived equation of motion for that, and you also have solved that system, and you have seen that for certain initial condition what is the response of mass number 1 and mass number 2, and in that case you arrived at this differential equation, okay, which is a symbolic one like this for such kind of so if this is the symbolic representation of whatever our system is, so this system you transformed into this, okay, and you got such kind of equation. Here it was 0 0, and I'll write it down in this fashion: 2k minus k. So minus k is a different, yeah, so it's this way. Here you have 2k sitting over here. Okay, so here displacement vector and this entire set is equal to 0 0. So this was a set of differential equations that you have arrived at, so which represents such kind of an equivalent two degree of freedom system. The actual system that you were trying to solve was this, but the equivalent one, based on whatever differential equations that you have arrived at, you can say that this is the equivalent system, and this k was actually having contribution of T, which was the tension in that string, and it was also having length contributions. Okay, so this one L, it so happened that these all L's are equal, that's why you get to see 2k minus k minus k 2k over here. Okay, otherwise you would have seen something else over here. So in that case this k comes out to be identical, right? And so this is the equivalent two degree of freedom system, and this is the set of equations for that, and you have solved it, and you have seen that for certain initial condition how exactly solution looks like. Okay, and what is the general solution? We also have seen this before. General solution of this system looks something like this: c1 times first mode shape, which happens to be equal to 1 1 in this case, times cosine of omega n1 t, where omega n1 is first natural frequency of the system, which is corresponding to the first mode shape that we have picked. Okay, so you can the way you have written in your tutorial session is, I guess, like this, right? So you considered sine and cosine terms separately, you can do it that way, so there is no any harm. It becomes easier when you are solving for initial conditions, right? So this is again the same mode shape and same first natural frequency, so first mode shape and first natural frequency, this is a pair that will always come in pair, this mode shape and this frequency. But there is also contribution of another mode shape, the second mode shape. Okay, and that contribution is over here. Second mode shape was like this: 1 minus 1 cosine of omega n2 t plus c4 times 1 minus 1 sine of omega n2 t. Okay, so you have sines and cosine trains of frequency omega n1 and omega n2 contributing in giving you displacements x1 and x2. Okay, and it all depends on what are your initial conditions, that is what is x1 to start with at time t equal to 0, what is x2 at time t equal to 0, what is the velocity of mass 1 at time t equal to 0, and what is the velocity of mass 2 at time t equal to 0. So these are the four quantities that you will be specifying at time t equal to 0. So depending on what are these four quantities that you have specified at time t equal to 0, so which of these four terms are going to contribute and which of them are not going to contribute, that will be determined. Okay, and how much will be the contribution. So these values of C1, C2, C3, C4 will be determined based on what are your initial conditions. Okay, and you have seen that the kind of initial condition that you considered in the last tutorial session, I guess, was like this. X1 was some non-zero value which I'll pick as 1 as of now. X2 0, okay, that was 0. X1 x dot 1 0 was 0. X2 dot 0 was also 0. That is, all velocities in the beginning, so the velocity of mass 1 as well as velocity of mass 2 in the beginning at time t equal to 0 was 0. And also you have seen that velocity, this initial displacement of mass number 2 was 0. So you have given initial displacement only to mass number 1, and that resulted into some such kind of a solution, okay, so which was having contribution of first mode, which was vibrating with omega n1t plus phi 1, plus there was also contribution of another mode and I'll write down here C1, C2, or you can write down AB, whatever you feel like, AB, right? So you can either write it down in this fashion or you can write it down in this fashion. I guess this phi 1 and phi 2 were not there, right? But contribution of omega n1 and omega n2 was essentially there. So which essentially means that the solution that you get, let's say if you are looking at x1, so x1 has got two wave trains. One is of circular frequency omega n1 and the other one is of circular frequency omega n2. Omega n2 is larger than omega n1. Okay. And it has got certain multipliers associated with it, and then you get superpose these two and you get to see the final solution of x1, which can be very different. So I am writing down, I am drawing a generic form. I don't know what it looks like, okay, for the condition that you have picked, okay, but it essentially is not harmonic, right? So this is harmonic with omega n1 frequency, this is harmonic with omega n2 frequency, and the final combination is not harmonic but a periodic solution. So x1 was periodic but was not harmonic, so it was periodic but it was not harmonic. Similarly, x2 was also periodic but x2 was not harmonic, right? So it was not having any harmonicity into it, okay, because again it was also having contribution from this first train, which was omega n1 train, and the other one which was omega n2, only their multipliers were different, right? Their superposition, the way they are superposing to give you final x2, that was the only difference between x1 and x2, right? Otherwise contributions of these two trains, individual trains, if you see, so their contributions were different but individual trains were identical, right? So which means that x2 was also not harmonic but it was periodic. Now consider a case if you give x1 as, let's say, 1 and x2 also to be equal to 1, and keep x1 dot as 0 and x2 dot as 0 to start with, okay. So these are new initial conditions, okay. So rather than giving x2 as 0, you are giving x2 exactly identical to what is x1, okay. So if you give both these displacements, initial displacements, exactly identical, you could have given any negative value as well, something like -5, -5, Okay, even in that case, okay, so what you would have observed is that you would have observed that there would not have been any contribution from this side. Okay, so you would have seen the solution only of this form, x1 x2 equal to 1 1, which is the first mode shape, times cosine omega n1 t times certain a value, okay, which depends on what is your initial condition. So if you happen to give -5, so it will come -5 over here, okay, and it keeps on oscillating with time. So this is only the time part, right? And this is what is the initial set that you have given, okay, if you happen to give such kind of initial conditions. So what has happened because of such kind of initial conditions, the other term which was sitting over here, okay, which was having contribution of omega n2 t, right, so that term has disappeared. So it is having zero contribution, okay, so it has got zero weight associated with it. So since that weight is zero, so this term is absolutely not contributing in determining what is x1 and x2. Okay, so x1 and x2 are having contribution of only one cosine train, okay, which is harmonic obviously because it is cosine train and it is having a frequency of omega n1. So x1 and x2 are harmonic. So if you happen to give initial condition which matches with one of the mode shapes, then obviously you are going to see that the solution this x1 and x2, they are always harmonic and they are always in sync. So you will see a synchronous motion. So always, so whatever will be x1, accordingly you are going to get x2, okay. So you could have done it in the other way round as well. So you could have selected the second mode, okay, so x1 you would have given, let's say, as 2, and x2 you could have chosen as -2, with again velocities being 0. So you have to also be very cautious about these velocities. So if these velocities are 0 and displacement profile is like this, then in that case you would again observe, you can do it at your end. Now you can write down your own MATLAB code. It was discussed yesterday in the yesterday's tutorial session. So you should be able to write down your own MATLAB code. You can try giving different initial conditions and you can try to see that how exactly responses of two mass blocks, mass block number 1 and mass block number 2, how exactly these two mass blocks move, or their displacements change with time, that you can try it out at your end, and you will be able to see that only if you pick certain initial conditions, displacements which match with certain the mode shapes that you have obtained. So your initial conditions are exactly identical to the mode shapes that you have obtained as the solution of eigenvalue problem, then you will be able to see that the motion is harmonic and both masses m1 and m2 are moving in sync. So if you choose such kind of initial displacement, then you will be able to see that contribution of the first term, that this term won't be there, okay, and you will be having only this term in that case, right? So you will get to see something like this: 2 times 1 minus 1 cosine of omega and 2t. This will be the solution if you happen to give such kind of initial conditions. So the other one, which was having omega n1 frequency, that is absolutely absent, and you have x1 and x2, both of them are in sync because time dependence of x1 and x2 is exactly identical. What is different is only these amplitudes, that to their ratio remains again constant. Only thing is that if amplitude of x1 is 2, then amplitude of x2 is -2, okay. So that is the only change between x1 and x2. Otherwise, so x1 and x2 will remain same. So if x1 is like this, then x2 would be like this, right? So both of them cross mean positions simultaneously. When mass number 1 goes to its extremity, mass number 2 goes to its other extremity at that time, right? So when mass number is towards positive extremity, mass number 2 if mass number 1 is at positive extremity, mass number 2 will go to negative extremity, and vice versa. Okay, so this is happening because mode shapes are coming out to be that way, right? So it all depends on what is the initial system that you have picked up, so and what are mode shapes that you have obtained. You can also obtain mode shape something like 0.5. Okay, so in that case you will be able to see that whatever is the amplitude of mass number 1, mass number 2 will have half of that amplitude, right? It can happen. So it depends on what is the mass matrix and what is the stiffness matrix. So essentially what are the system properties, accordingly these mode shape vectors will be determined. But the one very important aspect that you need to appreciate over here is that, so if you give initial conditions which are matching with its mode shapes, then you will be able to see that your system vibrates in harmonic motion, and also motion of mass block 1 and motion of mass block 2 is synchronous. In any other case, okay, for any other initial condition, there will not be synchronous motion, and those two masses will never be moving in the harmonic fashion. Okay, so they will be having periodic motion, but that will not be harmonic, right? So this is something that you need to appreciate. Okay, and we are going to go even further, and I'll be letting you know about one property. Actually we can derive it nicely. This is called as orthogonality of mode shapes. So however time is not permitting us to do it. We had done it last year, but this time we won't be doing it. Okay, but I'll be able to show it to you that what exactly is the outcome of that. Okay, we'll not be deriving that, but I'll be only posing that property. Okay, so property is something like this. Okay, so let's say we have arrived at uh, mode shapes. So what are the mode shapes that you have derived? So it is 1 minus 1. This is mode shape number 2, and the first mode shape is 1 1, right? And let's say that omega n2 is frequency corresponding to this mode shape, and omega n1 is frequency corresponding to this mode shape. Okay, now let's try to see what is the mass matrix m0 0 m, right? Let's say that your system is vibrating in mode shape 1, right? So which essentially means that this vector x1 x2 will, in that case, will be equal to c1 times 1 1 cosine of omega n1t, right? So in that case, what will be this thing, inertial force? In that case, that it will be minus c1 omega n1 square times 1 1 cosine of omega n1t. At any time, this will be the inertial force vector. Okay, so you have got let's say this, I'll be calling it as Fi, inertial force of mass number 1, and Fi, this is minus, rather minus inertial force, right? This is Fi2. Okay, so which essentially is equal to minus c1 omega n1 square m0 0 m 1 1 cosine of omega n1t, right? Now this is the inertial force. Now what I'll do is I'll pre-multiply this by transpose of mode shape number 2. Okay, that is this one. Okay, therefore the transpose comes out to be like this. So let me pre-multiply by this one, okay, to this inertial force. Okay, this is inertial force vector, and this is transpose of mode shape number 2. Okay, so if I do so, then I'll get 1 minus 1. Okay, then you have this m0 0 m 1 minus 1, it is 1 here. Initially we are considering, okay, so in this step we are considering first mode shape. Okay, but now we are pre-multiplying by transpose of mode shape number 2. Okay, so for finding out inertial force we are considering mode shape number 1, but pre-multiplying by transpose of mode shape number 2. Okay, so and also you have some other terms which are over here, c1 omega n1 square cosine of omega n1t. Okay, so those terms are there, so that I have not written, but I will be writing it now. Yeah, so these are the terms. So if you do it, let's for time being forget this, okay, and concentrate only on this. So if you do this calculation, then you will be able to see that it comes out to be 1 minus 1, and this is mm, which is equal to m minus m, which comes out to be equal to 0. Okay, so pre-multiplying by transpose of mode shape number 1 to mass times mode shape number 1. Okay, this is transpose of mode shape number 2, and this is mode shape number 1. This is mass matrix. So what you have done, you have considered mass matrix times mode shape number 1 and pre-multiplied by transpose of mode shape number 2, then that comes out to be equal to 0. This is called as orthogonality of mode shapes. That is, mode shape number 1 and mode shape number 2 are orthogonal to each other when considered along with mass matrix. Okay, so in light of this mass matrix, mode shape number 1 and mode shape number 2 are orthogonal to each other. That is, x2 transpose mx1 comes out to be equal to 0. It doesn't mean that x2 transpose x1 is equal to 0. In this case, this also is true, but not always. Okay, this will not be happening in all other systems cases. However, you pick any system, but you will be able to see that x2 transpose mx1 is always equal to 0. However, x1 transpose mx1 will not be 0. Okay, this is called as orthogonality of mode shapes. Similarly, x1 transpose mx2, that will be 0, but x2 transpose mx2 will not be 0. So if these two mode shapes are not identical, then this multiplication comes out to be equal to 0. Otherwise, this multiplication comes out to be equal to a scalar value, right? So when these are identical, then you get certain scalar value. When these are not identical, then you get 0. So what is the meaning of this? So just now what we have done, we were saying that this is something that we obtained as part of inertial force. Okay, when we were considering that mass was vibrating in first mode, right? Not mass, but the system. When the entire system is vibrating in the first mode, then what is the inertia force that you get? That has got contribution of mx1, and also there are certain other things associated with it, but we are as of now not talking about that. Now this inertial force times this one transpose of x2. Okay, again this is part of displacement when mass is vibrating in mode number 2. Okay, so this essentially comes out to be equal to work done. Okay, so it's like inertia force when mass is vibrating in mode 1 pre-multiplied by transpose of displacement when mass is vibrating in mode number 2. Okay, so this multiplication gives you energy or work done, okay, by this force when mass is vibrating in this fashion, and you will be able to see that it comes out to be equal to 0, and therefore we say that mode number 1 and mode number 2, they are orthogonal. Okay, this is also true in case of spring force, right? So you will be able to see that displacement transpose, when displacement, let's say, is considered when entire system is vibrating in mode number 2, multiplied by spring force when entire system is vibrating in mode number 1, then that also comes out to be equal to 0. That is x2 transpose K matrix x1 is also 0. Okay, you can give it a try. Okay, so let's try to do that, whether we get it that way. So this was x2 transpose, I have already taken transpose of it, times k, which was 2k minus k minus k 2k, multiplied by the first eigenvector or first mode shape, then that comes out to be equal to 1 minus 1, and you have this thing, which is equal to 2k minus k, which is k. This is minus k plus 2k, which is again k. It should be arranged in the vector form, which comes out to be equal to this 1 multiplied by k is k, this minus 1 multiplied by k is minus k, and this is 0, right? So this is true, that is x2 transpose k x1 is 0. Similarly, you will be able to show that x1 transpose k x2 is also equal to 0. And we already have seen that x2 transpose m x1 is 0 and x1 transpose m x2 is also 0. However, x1 transpose m x1 is not 0, and x1 similarly x2 transpose m x2 is also not equal to 0. You can try and see to it. Okay, it comes out to be like this. Let's consider x2 transpose m x2. Okay, so it will be like this: m0 0 m 1 1 1 minus 1. In that case, you will get 1 minus 1 over here, and in this one you will have m minus m, and you get 2m, okay, which is non-zero because m is not 0, right? Similarly, you can try it on k matrix by replacing this m matrix by k, and you will be able to see that that also is not equal to 0. And what is the meaning of these non-zero values that we get over here, we are going to see in the next class. Okay, however, for today's class you need to appreciate that modes have got orthogonal property, and they are not orthogonal with respect to each other, but they are orthogonal when considered together with mass and stiffness matrix. So that's why x2 transpose m x1 is equal to 0 is equal to x1 transpose m x2, and it is also equal to x2 transpose k x1, which is equal to x1 transpose k x2. Okay, you could have proven it mathematically as well. However, I am not doing it in the interest of time, but you can have a look at it if you are interested in. So this is called as orthogonality of mode shapes. You can have a look at it by yourself at any point of time, and if you feel like discussing that thing with me, you can ask me if you have any query, if you happen to have any query at all. Okay, so we'll stop over here for today, and I'm sure that you might have appreciated orthogonality of mode shapes. Now, in the light of this orthogonality of mode shapes, we are going to march forward in the domain of force vibration analysis of this 2 degree of freedom systems. Okay, so that we'll be doing in the next class. Thank you.